Welcome to the Happy Diabetic Kitchen Podcast, the podcast where healthy food is celebrated and every bite brings joy. Today we're making some mushroom for a special guest, Joe Weber, co-founder of 4-Star Mushrooms in the Chicagoland area. Joe is a true fun guy. Sorry for the bad puns, but I couldn't help myself. Dedicated to growing gourmet mushrooms that are packed with flavor, nutrition, and sustainability. We'll dig into how these fantastic fungi are cultivated, grown, and why they're such a powerhouse for healthy eating, and of course, some delicious ways to bring them to your table. We'll learn about varieties I'm sure you've never heard about, but are locally available. So look, pull up a chair, sharpen your appetite, and join me, Chef Robert Lewis, the Happy Diabetic, as we uncover the magic of mushrooms with Joe Weber from 4-Star Mushrooms. Stay tuned, everybody. Can't wait to get started. We will be right back. Hello everyone, I am Chef Robert Lewis, the Happy Diabetic. Welcome to the internet's most delicious cooking podcast. I'm here in the kitchen getting ready to explore a healthy diabetic lifestyle. I want to take the mystery out of healthy cooking, explore some amazing foods, and my diabetic
Today
journey
I'm
with all my successes and all my challenges.
Guest, Joe Weber,
let me help you live your best happy diabetic lifestyle. So welcome to the kitchen, and if you're new to the show, I am so happy you're here.
From their
touch
unique
that
flavors to their
because
amazing health benefits,
about to get started.
we're going to talk about
Thanks
how
for tuning in,
mushrooms
everybody.
are changing the way we think about food, nutrition, and wellness, especially for those of us living with diabetes or anyone who wants to eat healthy. So get ready to be inspired and maybe even a little hungry as we dive into the fascinating world of mushrooms with Joe Weber. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the Happy Diabetic Kitchen.
Thanks for having me, Robert.
Oh, you are so welcome. Joe, I have to ask you right off the bat, are you ready to get happy?
Oh, yeah. I'm already happy. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, that away. Okay, great. So we're going to talk about mushrooms and 4-Star Mushrooms, the company that you founded. But really, Joe, what inspired you to start growing mushrooms, and how did you get into this unique field?
So I should start with the fact that I was never a mushroom person growing up. I wasn't very much into cooking until I got into college, I would say. And even then, I never cooked mushrooms, never gravitated towards mushrooms when I went out to eat. That was mostly because I wasn't really aware of the versatility and the varieties of mushrooms. Like most people, I was mostly aware of, your white button and your portobello mushroom, which is what most of our mushroom ecosystem here in North America is. Taking a step back, throughout my entire life, I've been interested in ecosystems, ecology, natural habitats, and that kind of led me down the path of sustainability and looking at our agriculture system and the sustainability of our agriculture system. I went to school at University of Illinois in Champaign, and if you've ever been to Champaign-Urbana and U of I, you'll notice that when you're driving in, there's basically a sea of corn and soybeans for hours and hours as you're driving there. And so as I was getting a degree at first actually in landscape architecture, and then I changed into integrative biology, I was simultaneously seeing this agro ecosystem, and I was learning about the devastating impacts of our agriculture system in some of my classes. So it became clear to me that the agriculture system needed to change. That was going to happen one way or another. And I've always kind of in the back of my mind known that I wanted to start a business. I've got a family of entrepreneurs, and so it's kind of been second nature to me to want to do something on my own, to want to build something, to create something from nothing. And so I was interested in this sustainable agriculture concept. Eventually came into indoor vertical farming, and then through a podcast, I was actually introduced to mushrooms for the first time through a guy named Paul Stamets. He really helped connect a lot of the dots of my interests. So, the kind of key insight that the takeaway that I had from this podcast and from years and years of thinking about these things is that the mushroom cultivation process could be leveraged to be this keystone process in building a more sustainable food system. And what I mean by that is what we do here at 4-Star Mushrooms is we take organic byproducts from different industries, we process them and turn them into a food source that's really highly nutritious and bioavailable for mycelium. So we take these byproducts, we turn them into a food that's going to eventually create mushrooms, which are protein dense, nutrient rich superfood. We grow them indoors 365 days a year. And then what was kind of most exciting to me back before I started the company was our byproduct then is this really valuable soil amendment that we can use and we are using to build soil health and promote regenerative agriculture.
Okay, that's amazing. When did you realize mushrooms were more than just something you put on a pizza?
It was 2019 when I listened to this podcast. It was a really like pretty surreal experience. I think I listened to the podcast 4 or 5 times in a week. It was like that. It was that like kind of life changing for me. And I learned about the mycelium network, which basically connects most of the plants on Earth, and it's responsible for nutrient transfer and information transfer, and really is the kind of like architect of the ecosystem. And without mycelium, you don't have the biodiverse ecosystem. So mushrooms are kind of just like they're the cherry on top of this amazing class of organisms.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, Joe, tell all the happy diabetics out there a little bit more about 4-Star Mushrooms. When did you create it, and what actually do you do, and who do you supply mushrooms to? And tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So, 4-Star Mushrooms was founded in 2019. I kind of determined that I wanted to start growing mushrooms in 2018. And in 2019, launched the business, built out a super MVP grow room setup, built a walk-in cooler, literally 400 square feet of like warehouse space, the smallest I could find in Chicago. I knew that I wanted the business to be in Chicago. It's a little bit more expensive than being, somewhere more rural, but the culinary community in Chicago, I think, is the best in the country. And that's who I was kind of out to serve in the early days. So I guess, we got started in 2019. I brought my one of my best friends and my now business partner, Sean DeJoya, on in 2021. He joined as my co-founder as we started to build the next phase, which is where we're at right now. So in 2022, we went from about 1,500 square feet and 300 pounds a week to 11,000 square feet and about 2,000 pounds a week. And we continue to grow there. So that's the space that we're in right now. We mainly serve chefs. That's our biggest category of customer. We serve chefs wherever they may be. So that's obviously restaurants, but also hotels, catering companies, country clubs, private chefs, corporate dining, senior living. Wherever a chef may be, we're there to support them. And we're increasingly growing into the retail market. And that's a market that we're really excited to be expanding in. And we actually just this is the first week of our new retail packaging with Roundy's. So some of your listeners may start to see those make their way onto the shelves across the
Mm-hmm.
Midwest.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I'd be excited for that for sure. So, Joe, how long does it take from spore to harvest?
It's a great question. So we grow here at Four Star Mushrooms, we grow 7 varieties of specialty and gourmet mushrooms. And each of these mushrooms have a slightly different life cycle and slightly different environmental parameters that we need to control for. So on the fastest end, we have our blue oyster and our lion's mane. And there's basically two distinct phases of growth. The first one is the incubation phase. This is after we have made the substrate, which is their food source. We've pasteurized it, which is basically cooking it to clean it, and then we've added the culture. So at that point, when the culture is added to the substrate, that's when the incubation or colonization phase starts.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, for our fast-growing varieties, that takes 2 weeks. For our longer-growing varieties like chestnut and maitake, that takes 4 weeks. And then there's a few varieties like golden enoki, king trumpet, black oyster that take 3 weeks. And during this phase, the mycelium, which I'm probably also throwing out some vocab terms that people might not be aware of. So if you want any clarification, I'm happy to. But the mycelium, you can kind of think of like the root structure or the tree. It's the
Okay.
vegetative organism that's kind of in the ecosystem. It's resident in the ecosystem. And then the mushroom is the fruiting body. So you can think of that like an apple, right? So the mushroom in the native ecosystem will come up at a given time in the year when the conditions are right, and the purpose is to reproduce. So in this first phase, this colonization or incubation phase, we are growing the mycelium. We're giving it food. We're growing the mycelium. That takes anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 weeks. And then once that block is fully colonized, we bring it into our fruiting rooms, which is right behind me. And
Mm-hmm.
this is more of like what you think of when you think of growing mushrooms. This room it's humid, it's got a lot of fresh air, it's cool, and we're basically creating conditions for the mycelium to start to convert from mycelium into a fruiting body of the mushroom. And from that point, when we bring them in, it typically takes anywhere from 12 to 18 days. So on
Mm-hmm.
the shortest end, we're looking at about a month. On the longest end, we're looking at about 7 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
So pretty quick, all
Yeah.
things considered.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, listen, here in the kitchen, we love to cook and we love flavor, and we can definitely get geeky about this. And I know that you talk a little bit about it on your website. I know we've talked about it a little bit on this podcast, but mushrooms add a very rich and savory flavor that I know as umami, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear your explanation of what that is to help because this is a term that we hear a lot about. Um, can we just nerd out for a moment and talk about that?
Absolutely. And it's a very underappreciated. I think, people hear about it more now than they have before, but it's still a very underappreciated flavor. So umami is the least represented flavor. And I think it's the best. Obviously, I think it's
Yeah.
the best.
Some
Um,
people call it the fifth flavor.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and I think it is. And as you know, as mushrooms become more mainstream, that will be less of a controversial take, I think. So, as you noted, mushrooms are really rich in umami, and the versatility of mushrooms, I think, is one of the things that really blew my mind when I first started growing them. So, a lot of people are leaning towards and starting to convert towards plant-based diets, and eating less meat. And a lot of times that means that you have to, you kind of have to sacrifice something. And when you eat mushrooms, that's not the case. You can have a rich diet and cut out meat entirely and just replace it with mushrooms, and you're not losing that texture, and you're not losing that flavor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an omnivore. I eat everything, but I could just eat mushrooms. And all the mushrooms that we grow, the enoki mushroom could not be more different than a lion's mane, and it couldn't be more different than a chestnut mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much versatility around these mushrooms, and eating them in combination with each other provides this really rich experience, really rich flavor profile. And each of the mushrooms can be such great carriers of flavor, whether that's the flavor of the mushroom itself. When, one of my favorite ways to cook mushrooms is just with some oil and salt. And like you get so much flavor when you add that salt, it just pulls it out. Another way is to, you know, cook it with like barbecue sauce, and you kind of you treat that mushroom as a carrier of flavor instead.
Mm-hmm.
So anything from, a pulled pork type sandwich with oyster mushrooms to a fried chicken sandwich with lion's mane. Mushrooms are just so versatile.
Okay, I love all of that. Thank you for sharing that. What's your favorite mushroom variety? Do you have one? I know it's almost like choosing, like when people say, "Oh, you have three kids, which is your favorite?" I mean,
Yeah,
I get it, but do you have a favorite?
I do. I do. My favorite mushroom is the maitake mushroom for a few different reasons. So I think that, like on its own, it has the best flavor, just natural flavor. It's one of the easier mushrooms to cook. A challenge that people have when they start to eat more mushrooms or they want to eat more mushrooms is that it's very different than cooking a vegetable, and it's very different than cooking a traditional protein. So you kind of need to learn how to cook it. But with the maitake, you throw it in some oil, you cook it until it's browned, and you salt it, and there's no problem. Whereas like a lion's mane, it's a little bit more nuanced. Still an amazing, delicious mushroom, but
Hmm.
more nuanced. Um, the One of the challenges that I have with maitake is that um, we can't grow enough of it, so I don't get to
Hmm.
eat it as much as I would
Hmm.
like.
Hmm.
And then I'm also just, you know, we're a very mission driven company. We have a big vision about how we want to change the food system, and I really see maitake and lion's mane as the two mushrooms that are going to be kind of at the tip of the spear and be the mushrooms that I think scale the best for the larger population. And like one of the markers that Sean and I are always kind of either talking about or is in the back of our head is like when you look at impacting the greater food system, you need to think about places like Chipotle, because so many people get their calories from places like Chipotle. And I
Right.
think that the maitake mushroom is one that it's going to be, it's got to be on the menu at places like Chipotle. And once it's there, people are going to be like, I can't believe that we haven't had access to this before. Um,
Mm.
and so it's a really challenging mushroom to grow. So we need to do our part to increase access to it. Um, but I think the potential for scale with the maitake is something that's like it's very exciting to me.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to put that on our radar to
I
keep
should
up. Go
I should
ahead.
also mention that it's very all these mushrooms they're packed with medicinal compounds, and maitake is no different. We actually work with so we grow a variety of mushrooms here. Obviously, we also work with other cultivators and foragers from around the world, and we work very closely with a mushroom cultivator in Ontario, Canada, that they just grow maitake. Um, their founder, who I've gotten to know, is arguably the best maitake grower in the world. I'm sure he'd love to hear me saying that too. Um, and his mission is to help solve some cancer treatment or aid with cancer treatment using maitake mushroom and maitake mushroom extracts. And
Ah,
so that kind
interesting.
of, yeah, it kind of gives you an indication of the power. This guy's in his 70s, has been growing maitake for 40 years, and he's convinced that this mushroom can have a massive impact on people with cancer.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, I mean, food has so many different ways to improve one's health and body. And here, in at the Happy Diabetic Kitchen, we're all about that. And people living with diabetes, they just want to live healthy. And You know, we talk about this all the time. There's no such thing as the diabetic diet. This is a lifestyle way that everyone should be eating, right?
Hmm.
And a balance of foods and nutritions are super, super important.
Hmm.
So, hey, Joe, what's a common myth or misconception about mushrooms you'd love to clear up?
I think that all mushrooms, I hear so often that people don't like mushrooms or they don't like the texture and they don't like the flavor of mushrooms. And most of the time, this is because people have this perception that there's one mushroom. Like a mushroom is a mushroom is a mushroom. And they go to the grocery store and they see the white button mushroom or the portobello or the
Right.
cremini and they think that that's it. Right. And interestingly enough, actually 90+% of the mushrooms that are produced, consumed, imported in the United States are all one species. And that's the agaricus bisporous mushroom. And that's portobello, baby bella, and white button. It's all
Right.
the same mushroom. They're just grown differently. Um, and so I think that people having this perception that mushrooms are kind of this one thing that don't really taste that good. They're kind of chewy, and a lot of people have had bad experiences with them. I think
Right.
I'd like to dispel that because, like I mentioned before, you can have a sandwich that you like. I brought I brought some mushroom samples to a chef maybe 4 years ago, and part of a restaurant group. And he took the lion's mane. He made basically he breaded it and he fried it like you would a Nashville hot sandwich, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
he gave it to one of the chefs in their group who runs a really well known barbecue restaurant. He's the meat guy, right? And he gave it to him, and he thought it was a chicken sandwich.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so like that right there shows like there's so much versatility. There's so much for people to learn, and to like be open to when having mushrooms. And then mushrooms just on their own, like just sautéed properly
Right.
with the right ingredients, like and just eating like that, I think can change a lot of people's minds.
Yeah. And I know on your website you got a really great video of someone sauteing, a chef sauteing mushrooms. I've watched it. It's really great. I think, cooking is definitely an important, the method in which you cook is definitely important. Here's another weird misconception that I hear sometimes is the soil in which mushrooms are grown. People get a little freaky about that. Well, I mean, and of course, you and I'm looking at a picture of one of your grow rooms, but I think people have this misconception. It's in a dank, dark, wet, moist basement somewhere, with weird soil that comes from
Mm.
weird places.
Well, they're not too far off for those mushrooms, the agaricus mushrooms that I mentioned previously.
Hey, happy
So
diabetics. Want the inside
traditional
scoop on
agaricus, white button,
delicious, friendly
portobello, baby
recipes,
bella, cremini
expert tips,
mushrooms are
and
grown
inspiration to
on
keep you feeling
compost.
great? Well,
And so
sign up
they
for the
take
Happy
they take
Diabetic
things
Kitchen
like
newsletter
hay
and
and
get
manure
fresh,
and they mix them, they
flavorful
process
ideas
them, they
delivered
pasteurize them, and
straight to
that's
your
what the
inbox.
mushrooms are
Whether
growing
you're
off of.
looking for easy
We
meal
don't do that
plans,
here.
smart
And
nutrition
obviously, as you
advice,
can see
or
behind
just a
us, it's
little
not,
motivation from
a
me,
cave. It's
Chef
not
Robert, the
dark.
Happy
It
Diabetic,
is
we've
damp
got you
because all
covered.
mushrooms
Best of
do need
all,
high
it's
humidity to
free. Don't
grow.
miss out. Join the
But we grow all of
Happy
our
Diabetic
varieties
community
on
today
red
and
oak
get my
sawdust
free 7 steps
organic
to
soybean
healthy
hulls.
diabetic
And
living
these are really
and my
intentional
bonus
choices.
eating tips,
The
all
they're
free.
byproducts from the
Stay up to date on new
furniture making
podcasts,
industry,
insider
bourbon
tips,
barrel making
and more when you
industry.
subscribe to
Those come
our
out of
free
Missouri, and
newsletter.
then obviously
Sign
organic
up at
soybean hulls are,
happydiabetic.com
they're a dime
and
a
start your
dozen in the
journey to a
Midwest.
happier,
The organic component
healthier
is important though
eating
because
lifestyle.
the mycelium, if they're conventionally grown, they're likely have fungicide sprayed on them, which would inhibit mycelium growth. So we do have to have organic, but that's just a few of the things that we can grow off of. Like we've actually taken spent brewer's grain from Goose Island, which is right down the street from us, very
Mm-hmm.
iconic Chicago
Mm-hmm.
brewery.
Yep.
And we took they make a Bourbon County stout and they age the beer in bourbon barrels.
Okay.
And so we took their mash, their spent brewer's grain, and then they chipped bourbon barrels for us. We mixed those, pasteurized them, and we grew blue oyster mushrooms on that substrate. And then we served it at their Bourbon County Stout tasting day.
Wow.
And that was to like show people like this is, there's so many different ingredients that we can grow off of. So
Yeah.
we grow off of like very much like hardwood and then nitrogen sources. We don't use any manure or anything like that. And then as far as our grow environments go, we generally like to have more light than less light for two main reasons. One, for some varieties like the golden enoki, it does help with that color. You need a certain amount of light, but when you give them more light, they're just a little bit more vibrant. The
Mm.
blue oysters get even darker blue. Um, but the other reason is because uh, we're creating an environment that's anywhere from 55 to 65 degrees, 80 to 90% humidity. It's a perfect environment for microorganisms to grow, other microorganisms that we don't want other than mycelium. And so cleaning is a big part of what we do. And we have a showroom here at our facility where you can look into the grow rooms, and part of the reason that we did that is because we want to be as transparent as we can. We want to show off what we do and educate people. And if we're going to do that, we need to make sure everything is as clean as possible when we have our community in. So keeping things really bright allows us to see when things get dirty and hold us to a high standard.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, Joe, if mushrooms had personalities, which would you say is the life of the party on a plate?
I'd say the lion's mane.
Yeah.
The lion's mane is definitely the most exciting. I think it's the most versatile. It's the most exciting too. Like we've got people just knocking on our door every week saying, "Hey, do you have lion's mane mushroom?" It's the number one seller at the grocery store, and I think it's the most exciting from not only from a culinary perspective, but also from a medicinal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much you know about the lion's mane and the brain health benefits, but it's a nootropic mushroom, so it helps your brain actually regrow and grow new neurons. It's the Latin name is Hericium arenaceus, and it's named after these compounds, hericinones and arenacines, that are these really, really small molecules that actually are so small that they can pass the blood-brain barrier, which is
Mm.
very rare in nature.
Mm.
And once they get into the brain, they help your brain secrete brain-derived nerve growth factor and grow more neurons.
Mm.
And so the exciting thing with lion's mane is that one day there'll be derivatives or extracts made that can be used to help either prevent or treat things like dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and other neurological
Mm.
diseases. So I think like the lion's mane really just covers it all. It's
Yeah.
packed with medicinal compounds, even outside of the nootropic uh, aspect of the mushroom, and then on the plate, it's just a superstar.
Yeah. I mean, what I love about mushrooms is they do carry amazing flavors, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I had a chef one time make me a lion's mane, his take on a crab cake, right? No crab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And it was, again, it was amazing. Amazing.
that's a super popular recipe that we always see um, with the lion's mane. So, and we also see, obviously, we work very closely with restaurants, and after doing this for 6 years now, we've seen the lion's mane mushroom really live in that kind of like vegetarian vegan slot on menus
Mm-hmm.
where the seasonality might change, and there's in the spring the dish is different than the fall, but that lion's mane still lives there, and maybe it's treated like a piece of pork, and then maybe it's treated more like a steak or crab or
Right.
something else because it is so versatile.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an amazing mushroom. Joe, how sustainable is mushroom farming compared to other types of agriculture?
It's kind of a loaded question, and we're actually hosting an event this coming week on sustainability. So this is a very apt question, but I believe that the mushroom growing process is the most sustainable form of agriculture because it encompasses regenerative agriculture as well. Now we're growing indoors, so that takes energy. As you can
Mm-hmm.
see behind me, we're currently using plastic, which is not sustainable. But the idea and the process of what we're doing here is extremely sustainable and regenerative. And we consider ourselves a regenerative regenerative agriculture business because of the process, because we take these organic byproducts and instead of, some of these like spent brewer's grain, there's breweries in our neighborhood that just they have to throw it out because they don't have a place to put it. And that goes directly to a landfill and emits carbon. So the process of growing mushrooms can pull these byproducts in, convert them to this amazing superfood. And then on the back end, what we're doing is we're taking our spent material after these blocks behind me produce 2 flushes of mushrooms. We turn that into this really valuable soil amendment that currently goes into greenhouses, urban farms, community gardens, regenerative farms, and can completely transform their soil. And then in the next few years, our mission is to be actually be able to take that, put it on the land that we're operating on, and then start to grow more food that way. And so our thesis here is that regenerative agriculture is a requirement for the future of our food system and really for mitigating climate change, for fixing human health, and for solving for the biodiversity catastrophe that's happening and the rate of extinction. And so if we can transform, mushrooms are kind of the leading edge and they're we think the most kind of charismatic food item because it can be grown indoors because they're so different, so unique. They can be grown in an urban setting, but the impact that the production process can have on the greater agro ecosystem, I think is what we need to be focused on.
Wow. Amazing. I have a very good friend in Cambridge, Illinois. He's a regenerative farmer, cattle, chickens, and his operation is amazing. So I am all about that style of agriculture and support it 1,000% for sure. For sure.
It's I'd love to be connected with them. I think it's anybody that's specifically doing animal agriculture in regenerative ways, I think is just doing amazing work because right now there is, and for the past, I'd say 10 years, it's been such a focus on livestock and the carbon footprint of livestock.
Yes.
But people just have it twisted. They think that the cows are the problem. The cows aren't the problem. The problem is the way that we raise cows.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm going to connect you with him. He's a good friend of mine, Monty Botton's Grateful Grays in Cambridge. I'll send you his contact information. He'd love to hear from you. He is super passionate about it.
I believe it, and I'd love to be connected with him. Thank you.
I will. Yeah, I'll do that. So, Joe, what's next in the world of mushroom growing for you?
So we're constantly growing. We are always looking to grow the mushroom business. So both in terms of volume, in terms of geography, in terms of varieties that we grow. Got some big plans in the works for the end of this year and then into 2026, which I'm really excited about. In the next year to 2 years, I think as we start to get the mushroom side of the business really streamlined, we're going to be focusing on this side of the soil amendments and figuring out how we can start to make this more integrated food ecosystem and like suite of regeneratively grown food items.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of in the next year or so. We have this vision of really taking a lot of the land that's in Chicago that is not being used and turning those into urban farms, community driven, community led urban farms. Right now, the city of Chicago, I think that they own 10,000 vacant lots, and they're currently selling them for $1 a piece. There's some requirements that
Sure.
the city has for who can get those, but I think that if we can present a compelling enough vision, we can have a partner with the city of Chicago to help us do this because we're creating thousands and thousands of pounds, tens of thousands of pounds of soil amendment per month that can be used to restore this land and to grow more food for places that desperately need nutrient dense, clean, whole foods at an affordable price,
Right.
plus opportunity. So that's kind of like, I think it's been an amazing experience and also a very challenging experience to get to the point that we're at right now with just the mushroom side of things. And as that starts to to work more seamlessly than it has, I think it's going to give us the opportunity to focus on working on the food system at large.
Yeah. Wow, that is amazing. You are definitely leaving the planet better than you found it.
We're working hard to do that. We got a
Yeah.
long ways to go because there's a lot
Yeah.
of problems to fix, but I appreciate you saying that, and we're working very hard.
Yeah, and for those listening, get to know your farmer. Get to know the people that grow your food, which is why I love farmers markets, because I can talk to people that are actually growing the food, and I think you'd be amazed. We get very, we get very lackadaisical about going to the grocery store and buying our vegetables and not ever having a connection to the farm, to the soil, and how it's made. And I would just encourage anybody out there who has access to farmers markets to go and meet the farmer, get to know people growing your food. I think you'll have a whole different appreciation and love for the food that you're eating.
Absolutely. And COVID was a big wake up call to people because for sure in my life, and I think in most people's lives, it was the first time that we walked into the supermarket and the shelves have been bare.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty alarming thing to see in
Right.
the West, right?
Right.
You don't typically it's abundance, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it really drove home the supply chain and the issues with the supply chain. And um, farmers, we don't do farmers markets, but I'm a big supporter of farmers markets. It's an
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
absolute grind. So when you go,
Oh
make
yeah.
sure you talk to the farmers and you buy something from them because they're out there. I mean, they're working every single day and then they're getting up at 4 a.m. to go to the farmers market and work that for 6 hours and then go home
Right.
on a Saturday. So
Right. Right.
while you're sipping your latte, make sure to buy some produce from them.
Yeah, thanks for that. I totally agree 100%. Well, Joe, we're kind of come to the end of our moments here, and I appreciate all your time here. Why don't you just tell all the happy diabetics listening, where can they find you? How do they learn more about 4 Star Mushrooms?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk about this. So on our website, we have a map. There's a little button that says Find Mushrooms that will bring you to all of the retail stores that we work with. That's the number one way to support us, that and telling your friends about 4 Star Mushrooms, sharing this podcast. Our website is kind of the best place to learn about us and about all the happenings with 4 Star Mushrooms. We post opportunities for tours, events that we're having, collaborations that we're doing. For instance, we in the spring earlier this spring we did a collaboration where we did a beer with one of the breweries down the street, a
Mm,
Lion's Mane Pilsner. So
wow.
all that stuff can be found on our website, and then also our Instagram is pretty active
Yeah.
with stuff like that. So keep an eye out at any of these retailers for our new packaging coming, and just keep an eye on our website.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll have all the links in the show notes where people can find you and all the information they need to understand more about what you guys do. Well, Joe, thanks for being on the podcast. When we come back, you and I are going to play a very special game called the Rapid Fire 411. So, big prizes for the winners of this game. And again, Joe, thanks for being on the podcast. Stay tuned, everybody. We will be right back. Hey, happy diabetics. Want the inside scoop on delicious, friendly recipes, expert tips, and inspiration to keep you feeling great? Well, sign up for the Happy Diabetic Kitchen newsletter and get fresh, flavorful ideas delivered straight to your inbox. Whether you're looking for easy meal plans, smart nutrition advice, or just a little motivation from me, Chef Robert, the Happy Diabetic, we've got you covered. Best of all, it's free. Don't miss out. Join the Happy Diabetic community today and get my free 7 steps to healthy diabetic living and my bonus eating tips, all free. Stay up to date on new podcasts, insider tips, and more when you subscribe to our free newsletter. Sign up at happydiabetic.com and start your journey to a happier, healthier eating lifestyle. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to play the Rapid Fire 411.
Joe, I'm going to ask you a series of rapid fire questions, and you simply choose your preference. For example, butter or olive oil, riding a bike or hiking, things of that nature.
Perfect.
All right, here we go. Olive oil or coconut oil?
Olive oil.
Mango or papaya?
Mango.
Waffles or pancakes?
Pancakes.
Grilled steak or grilled fish?
Steak.
Chunky or smooth peanut butter?
Chunky.
Me too. I'm that chunky all the way. Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day?
Ooh. Valentine's Day.
Second to mushrooms, because typically or technically is a mushroom a vegetable?
It's not. No, that actually should have been what I dispelled as one of the rumors.
Well, let's just talk about that, because I'm going to ask you what your favorite vegetable is in just a second. But why don't you just expand on that if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, so mushrooms are actually their own distinct kingdom. So we have the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, which obviously vegetables fall under, and then we have the fungal kingdom. So the fungal kingdom is completely separate from the plant kingdom. It's actually more closely related to the animal kingdom. The main evolutionary split that we see going from animals to fungi, or really, whatever was before them to animals and fungi, is that we consume food and digest it internally, and they consume food and digest it externally. So they have enzymes that break it down externally, and we have a stomach that has enzymes and bacteria in it that break it down. So completely different.
Okay. Wow. Thanks for clearing that up. Okay. So now, favorite vegetable?
I'm going to go with carrots.
Oh, nice.
I love carrots.
Yeah, me too. Bacon or ice cream?
Bacon.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Superhero or supervillain?
Superhero.
Roller coasters or merry-go-rounds?
Ooh, they both make me nauseous, but I'll probably go with merry-go-rounds because it's a little more gentle.
I'm the same way. And finally, Joe, if you could break bread with anyone, past or present, who would that be? And I'll even cook for you guys if I could.
I'm kind of split between two.
You can choose two. We can have two dinners.
Okay, if I could have two dinners, I think I would say Martin Luther King Jr.
Nice.
And Steve Jobs. An entrepreneur and a leader and visionary.
Yeah. Wow.
Both visionaries. So
yeah, both visionaries. Right. Amazing people.
That's a tough question, though.
You did very well.
Who would yours be?
Oh, no one's ever asked me. Well, I would think if I could choose two like you did, I would choose my dad. Mostly because he passed away when I was 14 years old. And so, I've always felt a little like, I wish I could share so much with him. So if you're listening to this podcast and you have a dad around, go call him on the phone and tell him how much you love him and talk to him. So I would like to have my mom and dad there for dinner, and Jimi Hendrix.
That's great.
Right? I mean, I'm a guitar nerd and I love to play, and I just think he would be amazing to talk to.
Those are great choices, and I'm actually thankful enough that my dad is both my parents, but my dad is involved in 4-Star, and he's an entrepreneur. He's been my greatest role model for my whole life. And I'm so thankful that he's still involved with us and helping us grow.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That is truly a blessing. Well, Joe, thank you again for being on the Happy Diabetic Kitchen podcast. It was an honor having you. I can't wait to visit you in Chicago and eat in restaurants that you're supplying mushrooms to, and walking through your facility and just get to know you better.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you, and I appreciate you having me on the show. This was great. Definitely made my Friday, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're so welcome. All right, everybody. Well, stay tuned. We will be right back.
Hey, I've got something really excited to share with you today. We have a brand new Happy Diabetic Cooking Academy that you can access on my website, happydiabetic.com. Our first course is up, and it's called The Happy Diabetic Lifestyle Way of Cooking and Eating. So, what's the deal? Well, together, let's learn a way of cooking and eating that's actually fun, creative, and stress-free. We're making managing diabetes delicious. So, what do you get? On-demand cooking classes with me, Chef Robert Lewis, the Happy Diabetic. The course includes 5 chapters, 17 video lessons that you can do at your own pace, 8 simple recipes you'll absolutely love. I'll show you step by step how to create yummy, diabetes-friendly recipes. Smart tips on meal planning, portions, and keeping our blood sugars in check. We'll cover cooking basics and understanding food labels and other helpful stuff. So what's the goal, you ask? Well, to make cooking and eating at home fun, delicious, totally stress-free, and healthy for you, your family, and all your friends. So how do you get started? That's the easy part. Simply go to my website, happydiabetic.com. Click on the Academy link. Start learning right away. The cost, just $49. And here's the bonus. This Cooking Academy makes a great holiday gift. You can buy a gift card on our merch site and gift it to your loved ones so they can register for the class. Come on, everyone, let's get cooking together. We will create something amazing and healthy that you will be so proud of. Sign up now. What are you waiting for? And like all the suggestions that we've talked about today, remember to consult with a healthcare professional for your personalized advice and guidance tailored to your specific needs and medical history. One size does not fit all. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice. The views expressed on this podcast may not be those of the host or the Happy Diabetic Kitchen. Always consult your medical team if you're planning on making any changes to your health plan, medication, lifestyle, or anything going on with your diabetes. Remember, I'm not a doctor, a certified diabetic educator, or a dietitian of any kind, although I am a father of 3 amazing kids, Attila, Dracula, and Frankenstein. Well, that does make me a psychiatrist of sorts. Well, my mother wanted me to be a doctor. Does that count? And if you're loving the podcast, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss one single episode. What an amazing conversation. A big thank you to my friend Joe Weber for sharing his passion and knowledge about the power of mushrooms. I hope you're inspired to add more of these flavorful, nutrient-packed gems to your plate. And remember, eating well doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be delicious. Thanks for joining me today on the Happy Diabetic Kitchen podcast. Until next time, keep living your best and healthiest and happiest diabetic life. The Happy Diabetic Kitchen is made from scratch, seasoned with love, cooked to perfection. Our theme music is by the Happy Diabetic Kitchen Band. Remember, everybody, this year better than last year. This month, better than last month. This week, better than last week. And this day, better than yesterday. Thanks for tuning in, and let me leave you with this thought from Jacques Pepin. If you have extraordinary bread and extraordinary butter, it's hard to beat bread and butter. Remember, my friends, no one loves you more than me. Stay happy, stay healthy, and keep cooking delicious, diabetic-friendly meals. So until next time, chef it up.